Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to day 2 of the Africa Business Forum. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. I hope everyone had a good night last night at the dinner and a restful night, because today we have a really exciting lineup of speakers. We'll continue to explore this year's central theme, Africa's growth trajectory, globalization versus domestic collaboration. And today we'll be particularly exploring topics around innovation, technology, sports, fashion, and music. This year's theme is particularly close to my heart. It is one that I've seen play out in many contexts and in different sectors. In my previous role as a political risk consultant across Southern Africa, I frequently sat across business leaders and government decision makers who were grappling with a critical decision. Should they deepen ties with global partners, expanding their profile and their exposure internationally, or should they prioritize alliances with domestic and regional neighbors? And what are the costs of each option? And what are the implications and the challenges? And those were the questions we explored yesterday and we'll continue talking about today. And I hope you guys are as excited about that as I am. But before we kick off day 2, I wanted to share some reflections. The first one is I want to say what a privilege it is to stand before you today as one of the organizers of this event. My co-directors and I, and they're somewhere in the room, I can see Lorinda over there, are incredibly proud of the efforts that has gone into creating this event and bringing together such a stellar group of experts, visionaries, and change makers. It has truly been a pleasure to learn from all of you, so thank you. And what's particularly striking to me about us as a group is that all of us are different. We come from different countries, we have different professions and different backgrounds, yet I argue that we're all united by the same thing. We share a love for Africa, a curiosity about its people and its cultures, and an optimism for its future. I recently heard someone at a conference speak about the identity of an African. He urged that audience, just as I'd like to urge you today, to embrace the opportunity of being here, not to remain confined within the bounds of your national identity, of your business group, or of your profession, but to recognize and understand yourselves as part of a broader African community. We're all bound by our collective commitment to the continent's progress, and I argue that that is our shared identity. So, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being part of these conversations. Thank you for all the work that you do back home and in your communities. And let's get this day started. Thank you.
Thanks, Laura. And I must say, I was very excited by the depth of the conversation that was held in this room yesterday. And like Laura said, this is a critically important topic, right? Where should we focus our energy? How do we capture the growth that we know the continent is capable of? And instead of hearing us opine on it for much longer, I'd love to get your thoughts and reflections. So maybe show of hands, who thinks, while this is a spectrum, I'm going to force people to either side, who thinks that we should be focusing as a continent on globalization and deepening our global ties? Show of hands. Interesting. Not as many hands as I might have expected. And because this is Oxford, I'm going to push you a little bit further, and I'd love to ask for anyone to share why you might have voted for globalization. Can we get mics? Yep. So in the red, in the blue pullover, can I ask you to share your reflection?
Yeah, I think it's just, there's more opportunity, I think, for sure, to access kind of the wider global market. I think it just has to be done, of course, in a very careful manner and like making sure that things are mutually beneficial and like truly long-term. And if there's any form of kind of collaboration or like joint ventures and so on, there is truly like knowledge transfer happening and like kind of capability building and so on. So I think that really underpins it. But really, I think also we need to trade more within the continent for sure, but just getting access to global markets and being competitive globally is really the only way to make sure that you're competitive in the long term in a sustainable fashion.
Interesting. Access to global capital, access to global knowledge, global tech as well, all probably helpful things. Any other reflections for globalization? So, okay, so we're a very domestic collaboration heavy group. Anyone want to share on why they're voting more for domestic collaboration or intra-African collaboration? This gentleman over there.
I think the rest of the world has invested heavily to connect to Africa. Africa has just refused to connect to itself. And as a result, if we invest in doing that, I think the opportunities that they see, we have leverage to do multiples of that.
Very interesting. Thank you for sharing.
I think I come from a point of view of focusing on the human capital talent in Africa, which I think is probably the most undeveloped and probably the most exciting resource on the continent. We know about all the sort of commodity resources. And the challenge with globalization is that it tends to be, it's not an inclusive development strategy. It tends to favor folks like us in this room who are quite elite. And we talk to other elites in the places we go to in the global community. And the ordinary African does not benefit from that interchange. And I think the integration of Africa within itself will necessarily focus on the average African, because the average African already trades country to country, border across border. So I think more of a focus on that will force the elites to derive their wealth not from sort of soothsaying to people globally, but rather listening to their population and trying to see how to move them forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I love that, centering the ordinary African, what's going to benefit the man on the streets.